Most people believe authority is something you earn over time. They think it comes from approval, titles, recognition, or being accepted by others. That belief quietly destroys their presence. Because authority is not given. It is assumed. The moment you wait for permission to act, speak, or take space, you've already positioned yourself below others. Even if you don't realize it. Even if no one says it out loud. Strong people understand this early. Not intellectually, instinctively. They don't ask for authority. They move as if it already exists. Not with arrogance, not with noise, but with certainty. Authority is not about dominating others. It's about being internally settled. And that settlement shows before words ever do. Look closely at how people behave when they lack authority. They over-adjust. They over-explain. They scan faces for reactions. They soften their tone before anyone challenges them. They are trying to be accepted. That behavior communicates one thing very clearly. I'm not sure I belong here. Strong people don't do this. They enter a room without apology. They don't rush their movements. They don't fill silence to reduce tension. They don't perform likability. They allow the room to adjust to them. This is not confidence learned from affirmations. It's discipline over impulse. Authority begins when you stop asking questions internally like, is this okay? Do they agree? Am I allowed to do this? And start operating from a different assumption. This is where I stand. People feel this immediately, not consciously, not logically, but at a nervous system level. Humans are wired to recognize certainty, and they are equally wired to detect hesitation. You don't need to announce authority. Announcing it weakens it. You don't need to explain your position. Explaining invites negotiation. You don't need to convince. Convincing signals doubt. Authority is communicated through pace, through stillness, through restraint. Strong people are not rushed by other people's expectations. They don't allow urgency to pull them out of position. They don't react just to prove they matter. They already know where they stand. And because they don't ask for authority, others begin to treat it as a given. In the next part, we'll break down why people who seek approval never gain authority, no matter how skilled, intelligent, or hard-working they are. The fastest way to lose authority is to seek approval. Most people don't see this connection. They think approval makes them safer, more accepted, more respected. It does the opposite. The moment you need agreement to feel stable, you hand control to other people. Strong people don't do that. They understand something uncomfortable. Authority and approval cannot coexist. Approval requires adaptation. Authority requires consistency. When you seek approval, you start adjusting yourself in real time. Your tone changes. Your posture shifts. Your words become softer, longer, less precise. You begin explaining instead of stating. That behavior trains people how to treat you. Not with respect, but with influence over you. People who seek approval become predictable, and predictability lowers status. Because authority is built on one thing above all else, emotional independence. Strong people are emotionally self-contained. They don't need immediate feedback to regulate themselves. They don't need reassurance to hold their position. They don't need agreement to stay grounded. This is why approval seeking never leads to authority, even when the person is competent. You can be intelligent, you can be skilled, you can be hardworking, but if your behavior signals dependency on validation, people will sense it instantly. Not because they analyze you, but because humans respond to signals, not explanations. Approval-seeking behavior has clear signals: over-justifying decisions, preemptive explanations, nervous laughter, constant checking for reactions. None of this inspires respect. Strong people don't rush to be understood. They allow misunderstanding to exist temporarily. They don't chase alignment. They allow others to catch up. This creates a psychological gap, and that gap shifts the hierarchy, because the person who needs less approval controls the interaction. This doesn't mean strong people are cold or disconnected. It means they are anchored internally. They don't outsource their sense of legitimacy. They don't say, "Is this okay with you?" They move as if their presence is already justified. And when someone challenges them, They don't scramble to defend themselves. They pause. They observe. They respond only if necessary. Sometimes they don't respond at all. In the next part, we'll talk about why calm behavior under pressure signals authority more than confidence ever could, and how restraint reshapes how people perceive you. Most people believe confidence is what creates authority. They're wrong. Confidence can be performed. Calmness cannot. Anyone can sound confident when things are easy. Authority shows itself when pressure appears. Under pressure, most people speed up. They talk more. They explain faster. They try to regain control through words. That reaction reveals insecurity. Strong people slow down. They don't mirror urgency. They don't match emotional intensity. They don't rush to stabilize the situation. They let the pressure exist. And that is what shifts power. Calmness under pressure sends a very specific signal. I am not threatened by this. Not threatened by disagreement. Not threatened by tension. Not threatened by other people's emotions. This is why calm people often feel intimidating without trying. Their nervous system stays regulated while others destabilize. And humans instinctively defer to the most regulated presence in the room. This has nothing to do with dominance. It has everything to do with containment. Strong people contain themselves first. That containment creates gravity. When someone challenges them, they don't react emotionally. They don't escalate. They don't perform authority. They stay still. That stillness forces others to confront their own agitation. And most people can't tolerate that. They begin to talk more. They justify themselves. They reveal intention. The calm person doesn't need to extract information. It comes freely. This is why restraint is more powerful than control. Control requires effort. Restraint requires discipline. And discipline is visible. Strong people don't interrupt. They don't compete for dominance in conversation. They don't try to win moments. They allow moments to resolve themselves. This creates a hierarchy without confrontation. Because the person who can remain calm while others lose composure becomes the reference point. Not because they demand it, but because everyone else feels less stable. Calm authority doesn't announce itself. It's recognized. And once recognized, it doesn't need reinforcement. People begin to speak differently around you. They choose words more carefully. They pause before challenging you. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. In the final part, we'll talk about how authority sustains itself over time and why strong people never need to constantly reassert their position. True authority doesn't need maintenance. That's what separates it from dominance. Dominance must be reinforced constantly. It needs reminders. It needs reactions. It needs visible control. Authority doesn't. Once authority is established, it sustains itself through consistency. Strong people understand this. That's why they don't constantly reassert their position. They don't remind others who they are. They don't demand recognition. They don't correct every challenge. They let patterns do the work. Authority grows quietly when behavior stays aligned over time. The way you enter rooms, the way you speak when challenged, the way you don't overreact, the way you don't explain unnecessarily. All of it compounds. Most people sabotage their own authority by trying to protect it. They argue to prove they're right. They explain to avoid misunderstanding. They react to prevent loss of status. But authority isn't fragile. If it can be destroyed by a question, it was never authority. It was image. Strong people don't protect an image. They protect alignment. They act the same when observed and when ignored. They don't shift based on audience. They don't change tone to gain comfort. That consistency creates trust at a deeper level. Not emotional trust, structural trust. People know where you stand. And when people know where you stand, they stop testing boundaries. This is why strong people rarely face open confrontation. Not because no one disagrees with them, but because disagreement feels pointless. Authority removes the incentive to challenge, not through fear, through clarity. Strong people don't rush decisions. They don't broadcast intentions. They don't overcommunicate. They let outcomes speak. Over time, something subtle happens. People begin to adapt around you. They wait for your signal. They slow down when you slow down. They recalibrate when you stay steady. Authority becomes environmental. You no longer need to lead aggressively. Your presence already sets the pace. This is the final shift. Authority stops being something you project and becomes something others respond to automatically. And that's why real authority is quiet. It doesn't need defense. It doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need permission. It simply exists.